The therapist who broke confidentiality is why my son is still alive. The call came from Dr. Lillian Foster on a Wednesday evening while I was heating up frozen pizza for dinner. She introduced herself as my son Ethan's therapist and said she needed to meet with me immediately, tonight if possible, without my wife Rebecca present. Her voice had an edge that made my stomach drop. I asked what this was about and she said she couldn't discuss it over the phone, but it concerned Ethan's safety and she'd already filed a mandatory report with Child Protective Services. My hands went numb holding the phone. I told her I could be at her office in 40 minutes. She gave me the address and said to come to the back entrance, not the front. The secrecy felt wrong, but the urgency in her voice left no room for argument. I told Rebecca I had to run an errand and would be back soon. She was in the living room scrolling through her phone and barely looked up when I left. The drive to Dr. Foster's office felt surreal, traffic lights and street signs blurring past while my mind raced through possibilities. Ethan had been seeing her for 3 months since Rebecca and I separated in June. The divorce was supposed to be amicable, but things had gotten complicated when she filed for primary custody, claiming I was emotionally absent and prioritized work over family. Dr. Foster met me at the back door of her office building, a plain brick structure in a medical complex near the hospital. She was in her mid-50s with gray hair pulled back and glasses that reflected the parking lot lights. She led me through empty hallways to her office without small talk. The room had soft lighting and comfortable chairs arranged around a coffee table, the kind of space designed to make people feel safe enough to reveal painful truths. She gestured for me to sit and closed the door firmly. She said she was violating confidentiality laws by meeting with me and could lose her license, but she believed Ethan's life was in danger and standard protocols weren't moving fast enough. I started to ask what she meant, but she held up her hand and said I needed to listen carefully to everything before responding. She explained that during their sessions over the past month, Ethan had disclosed troubling information about his home life with Rebecca. He described being given medicine that made him sick, being kept home from school frequently, and being told he had serious health problems that required constant monitoring. Dr. Foster had grown concerned when Ethan mentioned Rebecca taking him to different doctors in different cities, always seeking diagnoses for illnesses he didn't seem to actually have. Dr. Foster pulled out a file folder and opened it on the coffee table. Inside were her session notes, carefully documented dates and statements from Ethan. She pointed to an entry from 3 weeks ago where Ethan told her Rebecca had been researching rare childhood diseases online and asking him questions about his symptoms before doctor appointments. Another note described Ethan saying his mother gave him special vitamins that made his stomach hurt and caused him to vomit. Dr. Foster had initially considered the possibility that Ethan was exaggerating due to divorce stress, but the pattern became impossible to ignore. She showed me medical records she'd obtained through a release form Rebecca had signed when starting therapy. Ethan had been to 14 different doctors in 8 months. He'd undergone blood tests, imaging scans, and evaluations for conditions ranging from autoimmune disorders to cardiac problems. Every test came back normal, but Rebecca kept seeking new opinions and insisting something was seriously wrong with him. Dr. Foster said the pattern matched Munchausen syndrome by proxy, a form of abuse where a caregiver fabricates or induces illness in someone under their care, usually for attention or sympathy. The realization hit me like cold water. I remembered Rebecca posting about Ethan's health struggles on social media, sharing updates about doctor visits and test results, receiving hundreds of supportive comments. I asked why she was telling me this instead of just letting CPS handle it. Dr. Foster leaned forward and her expression darkened. She said CPS had assigned the case to investigator Patricia Webb, who happened to be friends with Rebecca's sister. She'd filed the mandatory report 4 days ago and received a call back from Webb saying she'd looked into it and found no cause for concern. Webb claimed she'd spoken with Rebecca and reviewed medical records and determined that Rebecca was simply being a concerned mother seeking proper diagnosis for legitimate health issues. Dr. Foster said she'd pushed back, explaining the pattern of doctor shopping and Ethan's own statements, but Webb had dismissed her concerns and closed the case. That's when Dr. Foster made copies of everything and started reaching out to other professionals. She'd contacted 3 of the doctors who'd examined Ethan and asked if they'd been given complete medical histories. 2 of them said Rebecca had specifically told them Ethan hadn't seen other specialists, when in fact he'd been evaluated by multiple doctors for the same symptoms. The deliberate withholding of information suggested Rebecca was manipulating the medical system to get the diagnoses she wanted. Dr. Foster had filed complaints with the state medical board and contacted an attorney specializing in child welfare cases, but all of that would take time, and she believed Ethan was in immediate danger. She showed me text messages Ethan had sent her through a therapy app meant for patients to communicate between sessions. The messages were short and scared. To see the full story, click the link below or go on my channel.